What if I told you some of the world's richest and most powerful people were quietly connected to one of the darkest scandals in modern history? Jeffrey Edward Epstein was no ordinary financier. Behind his billionaire lifestyle and elite social circles lurked disturbing secrets. He manipulated and exploited vulnerable young women while moving in the highest circles of power. From teaching at an elite New York school to mingling with presidents, royalty, and celebrities, Epstein's life was a mix of wealth, influence, and shadows. In this video, we'll look into the legal files that reveal surprising names linked to Epstein's world. We'll uncover the stories of the rich and powerful whose associations with him have sparked controversy, conspiracy theories, and outrage worldwide. Get ready to explore the secrets behind the glittering facades and the unsettling reality beneath. Now that we've set the stage, let's take a closer look at why the Epstein case shook the world and why his court records continue to attract global attention. Jeffrey Epstein was not just a wealthy financier. He was a manipulator who targeted underage girls while moving freely among the world's most powerful individuals. Presidents, royals, and celebrities were seen in his company, often unaware, or some argue, willfully blind, to the truth behind his charm and fortune. The scandal first gained public attention in 2008, when Epstein reached a highly criticized plea deal. Despite extensive evidence of wrongdoing, he avoided a lengthy prison sentence, serving just 13 months with work release privileges. His light punishment exposed the unsettling truth about how privilege and influence can shield individuals from full accountability. Years later, Epstein faced federal charges again, accused of running an extensive network to exploit young women. While awaiting trial, he died in prison under circumstances officially ruled a suicide, leaving many questions unanswered. Alongside him, Ghislaine Maxwell, his British associate and former partner, was later convicted in 2021 for assisting him. Both their civil and criminal cases produced a staggering collection of evidence, including witness accounts, victim interviews, property raid reports, flight logs, and Epstein's infamous contact book, which included the names of high-profile figures. These court files matter because they provide a rare and unprecedented insight into how a predator operated at the highest levels of society. They reveal the networks, the enablers, and the structures that allowed such behavior to continue unchecked for years. Portions of these files have already been released, mentioning individuals like Prince Andrew, Michael Jackson, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. While inclusion in the documents does not imply guilt, the files spark critical questions. How did Epstein escape severe punishment for so long? Who else played a role? And just how far-reaching were his connections? Ultimately, the Epstein court files are more than legal documents. They are a window into a hidden world of wealth, power, secrecy, and abuse. They continue to haunt the elite and remind the public that justice, no matter how delayed, leaves a record. These files are a record of truth that the world is still trying to fully comprehend. Now let's step deeper into the shadows and see why the Epstein files sent shockwaves through the world's elite. If you think being named in these files was just a minor detail, think again. The documents reveal connections that are chilling, linking some of the most powerful people on the planet to a man who preyed on children. Donald Trump, for example, appeared in Epstein's flight logs and contacts book. They were friends in the 1990s, attended parties together, and shared the same social circles. Bill Clinton also appears in flight records, flying on Epstein's private plane multiple times. Hillary Clinton, while not implicated in criminal activity, was subpoenaed as part of the investigation, highlighting how far-reaching the network was. Prince Andrew, a British royal, attended Epstein-hosted events and later faced serious public scrutiny over allegations tied to Epstein's operations. Even Michael Jackson is listed among social contacts in the files, though he passed away years ago. Being mentioned does not automatically mean guilt, but it paints a horrifying picture, a predator surrounded by power, wealth, and influence, moving freely while hiding unspeakable crimes. The court files expose not only Epstein's abuse, but the world he operated in, a network where privilege, secrecy, and fear allowed atrocities to persist unchecked. And here's the chilling part. These were not isolated interactions. These were repeated social engagements, flights, and private gatherings, all documented in the files. Each name, each encounter, adds another layer to a story that is as disturbing as it is powerful. The Epstein files are more than just evidence. They are a window into a hidden world of exploitation, where the lines between wealth, influence, and criminality blur, leaving society to grapple with questions that remain unanswered. Bill Clinton, the former president, appears in Epstein's flight logs multiple times. Trips on Epstein's private plane, sometimes called the Lolita Express, raised eyebrows worldwide. Were these philanthropic journeys, or were they glimpses into a darker network? The files reveal social interactions, but no criminal charges were ever filed. Hillary Clinton, subpoenaed as part of congressional oversight, her connection appears political and social. No wrongdoing is indicated, yet her name fuels speculation and conspiracy theories. The files in this case are more than documents. They are mirrors reflecting how Epstein's reach extended into the highest levels of power. Prince Andrew, a royal tied to parties and gatherings in London and New York during the late 1990s and 2000s. Later, allegations surfaced linking him to Epstein's sexual abuse network. He denies involvement, but public scrutiny and the court files have left a permanent shadow over his reputation.
Because there is no good time to talk about Mr. Epstein. Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, and I'd known her since...
Michael Jackson. Even the king of pop appears in these documents. Social connections noted, interactions recorded. He died in 2009, years before Epstein's second federal charges, yet his inclusion underscores the sheer breadth of Epstein's influence. Each name in the files adds another layer to a web of wealth, secrecy, and manipulation. Social circles that once seemed glamorous now appear haunting. Each connection forces us to ask the same terrifying questions. How could Epstein operate for so long? And who else was part of this hidden world? But the shocking names are only the beginning. The real story lies in the network Epstein built, and the secrets it still hides. If you think the danger ended with Epstein, it didn't. The court files reveal a web of influence, exploitation, and secrecy stretching across continents. Flight logs, black book entries, and witness statements show patterns of repeated interactions, parties, private flights, and gatherings, where underage girls were allegedly groomed and trafficked. Socialites, wealthy businessmen, and politicians appear throughout these documents, some with connections that raise questions, others whose exact roles remain unclear. The files also expose how Epstein operated with impunity. Even after convictions and arrests, his influence allowed him to move freely, hosting events attended by the world's elite. And while Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction offered some justice, the documents suggest she was only one part of a much larger machine, an intricate network that may never be fully uncovered. Why does this matter? Because these files are not just about one predator, they are a mirror reflecting the intersections of wealth, power, and criminality. They show how privilege can shield wrongdoing, how influence can hide secrets, and how the world's elite can unknowingly or knowingly interact with horrors that remain largely hidden from public view. And here's the chilling truth. For every high-profile name released, dozens more remain obscured. Investigations continue, subpoenas are still being issued, and the unanswered questions grow heavier with every page made public. Each document is a piece of a puzzle that paints a portrait of corruption, secrecy, and exploitation that the world is only beginning to comprehend. If you thought the Epstein files were simply about scandalous names, the truth is far darker. They reveal the mechanisms of a hidden network, the scope of power used to manipulate and protect, and a story that the world cannot ignore. And if you think the files only revealed connections, think again. The Epstein files expose details so disturbing they read like a crime thriller, but every page is painfully real. Flight logs document private journeys where underage girls were allegedly transported across states and even continents under the watchful eye of Epstein and his associates. Black Book contacts show a sprawling list of the world's elite, mingling freely with someone accused of unspeakable crimes. Victim statements, some graphic and heart-wrenching, paint a picture of manipulation, coercion, and abuse that went on for years. Girls as young as 14 were groomed, exploited, and silenced, their lives forever altered. And the most horrifying part? Many of the people around Epstein, some famous, some powerful, may have known or at least turned a blind eye. Civil lawsuits and court testimonies reveal lavish properties used as hunting grounds, planes converted into private worlds of secrecy, and financial transactions that suggest how influence and money protected him from justice for so long. Each document, each notation, adds another thread to a network so vast that it challenges belief. And yet, for all the revelations, for all the names unsealed, there remain hundreds of pages still hidden, sealed under legal protections or redactions. Each missing piece fuels speculation, conspiracies, and more questions than answers. If you thought Epstein was alone in his crimes, the files suggest otherwise. They hint at a shadow world where power and secrecy intersect with the darkest impulses of human behavior. And the truth? We may never fully know how deep it runs or how many others were complicit. These documents are not just legal records. They are a haunting testimony. They force us to confront uncomfortable questions about accountability, privilege, and the lengths to which some will go to hide the truth. And as the Epstein files continue to unfold, one thing becomes chillingly clear. The Epstein court files are more than scandal. They are a stark reminder of how power and privilege can mask horrifying crimes. They expose a shadowy network that manipulated, exploited, and silenced the vulnerable, while some of the world's richest and most influential people moved freely in Epstein's orbit. Each released document answers a few questions, but leaves countless more in its wake. Justice has been partially served with the convictions of Epstein and Maxwell, but the files continue to haunt public consciousness, keeping the conversation alive about accountability, secrecy, and the limits of influence. The story of Jeffrey Epstein is not just about a man, it's about a system that allowed his crimes to persist for decades. And as more documents are released, the world watches, questions, and demands the truth, because some stories are too dark to ignore. After seeing the shocking connections in the Epstein files, one question remains. How deep do you think this network really goes? And who else might be involved? If this deep dive left you stunned, don't stop now. Smash that like button, subscribe so you never miss these eye-opening stories, and ring the bell to stay updated on the latest revelations. We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments, share your take on the files, or tell us who you want us to cover next. Share this with anyone who needs to see the truth behind the headlines.